Olá, sou Daniel Fernandes, aqui do canal Universo das Lutas. Nós vamos falar aqui de uma lutadora que está dando o que falar, a Kayla Harrison. Pois é, a Kayla Harrison que lutou ontem com a brasileira Marina Moraes e destronou a brasileira. E eu vou passar aqui um vídeo sobre ela que eu peguei lá no canal Chad, um canal de YouTube Chad, da história dela, principalmente no judô. Mas antes de falar sobre isso, se você não é inscrito aqui no nosso canal, já se inscreva no nosso canal, não deixe de acionar aí as notificações e dê o seu like aqui que é muito importante para o nosso canal, beleza? Queridos, a Kayla Harrison é uma lutadora brasileira, ela que já foi campeã mundial de judô, bicampeã olímpica de judô também. Ela migrou para o MMA e está destronando as lutadoras. Ela que foi campeã do último GP aí da Pfl e agora ontem ela lutou aí a primeira luta da Pfl, acabou com a brasileira Marina Moraes logo no primeiro round e é tida aí, como ela mesmo diz, o novo Khabib Nurmagomedov de saia feminina. Ela que tem a especialidade dela de judô, foi para cima da brasileira, já colocou na grade, já pôs pro chão. Ela tem um ground and pound muito bom, muito forte mesmo, difícil de resistir. Foi até assim que ela venceu a brasileira. Muitos dizem que ela é uma das lutadoras que podem vencer a Amanda Nunes e também a Valentina Shevchenko. E ontem, quando eu fiz um vídeo aí sobre essa luta, algum inscrito do canal me perguntou se ela poderia vencer a Amanda Nunes e a Valentina Shevchenko. Eu acredito que a Amanda Nunes, eu acho que é muito difícil dela vencer. Por quê? Porque a Amanda Nunes ela tem um QI de luta muito grande. Eu acho a Amanda Nunes muito inteligente. Acredito que a Amanda Nunes não vai deixá-la encurralar na grade, não vai deixar que ela encurta na luta para que ela possa colocar ela para o chão. Eu acho que ela não consegue fazer isso com a Amanda Nunes, porque eu acho que a Amanda Nunes consegue sim deixar ela um pouco mais distante, trabalhar na distância, trabalhar os seus chutes baixos. A Amanda Nunes tem um chute baixo muito forte na panturrilha, quem dirá a Chris Borg, né, que sentiu esse chute. E a porrada da Amanda Nunes também é muito forte. A gente não viu ainda a Kayla Harrison tomar uma pancada bem forte no queixo ou no rosto. Então eu acho que a Amanda Nunes não. A Valentina Shevchenko também é muito boa, né? A gente sabe que ela é muito boa também. Se der distância, ela acerta vários golpes, tem um chute alto muito potente também. Mas a gente viu que a Jennifer mais encurtou, colocou ela para baixo, deu uma certa dificuldade, perdeu por decisão unânime do juiz, mas foi para decisão. Então a gente acha que esse é o jogo dela. O problema da Valentina é que a Valentina também queda muito bem. Quem dirá a Jéssica Andrade, né? Que o jogo da Jéssica seria colocar a Valentina na grade e depois colocar no chão. E ela não conseguiu, por quê? Porque a Valentina também é faixa preta de judô e queda muito bem. Mas eu acho que contra a Kayla Harrison não ia funcionar dessa forma. Eu acho que a Kayla Harrison, que é uma mulher muito forte, iria sim conseguir encurralar ali, colocar na grade a Valentina Shevchenko e colocá-la para baixo. E aí o ground and pound dessa mulher é muito forte. Não estou dizendo que a Kayla Harrison venceria fácil a Valentina Shevchenko, mas eu acho que ela teria uma chance sim de vencer a kirguistanesa. Contra a Amanda Nunes eu acho um pouco mais difícil, mas eu acho sim que a Kayla Harrison não está no nível dessas duas lutadoras, mas vai chegar. Eu acho que ela tem um judô muito bom, um ground and pound muito bom, ela é muito forte e também tem uma trocação muito boa. Então eu acho que ela pode chegar sim no nível dessas lutadoras. Por enquanto ela só está pegando lutadoras de fraca mediana, vamos falar sério, né? Ela está pegando lutadora de fraca mediana, mas quando ela tiver, de repente, no UFC, pegando as tops da categoria, é que a gente vai ver. Mas, sim, de fato, ela é uma ótima lutadora, vai dar o que falar, sim, aí no futuro, beleza? Bom, querido, vamos ver, então, o documentário aí que o canal Chad fez aí sobre essa lutadora? Confira comigo aí, tem um pouco de paciência, no começo aí ele vai começar a falar bastante, no final tem bastante lutas dela de judô, então acompanha aí o canal Chad, aí o que a gente pegou aí desse canal, ok? Um grande abraço e acompanha o vídeo comigo.
Hi, this is Shadi and in this episode we're gonna be taking on my favorite female judoka, Kayla Harrison. She is the double Olympic champion from London and Rio, and now she is an MMA fighter, so expect this episode to be a little bit different because the content will vary as far as technique and career highlights. So let's take a look and see what makes Kayla so different, so unique, and so dominant. So let's begin. Similar to all episodes, this episode is divided into 4 parts. 1 is origins and upbringing, where is Kayla from and how did she start judo. 2, competition highlights or some of the most memorable moments in her competitive career and where is she now. 3 is kumikata, try to analyze some tactics and grip fighting. And 4 is the top 3 techniques she uses to finish off her opponents. First, we start with origins and upbringing. So Kayla Harrison is an American judoka. She was born in the state of Ohio on July 2nd, 1990, which makes her 29 years old. And according to a Fighting Films interview, she had stated that she started judo at the age of 6. It was a decision made by her mother because her mother was a judoka in college, and she put her in judo because she was a wild child and she wanted her to learn self-defense, and she immediately fell in love with the culture and the techniques and everything about judo, and now she is one of the greatest with 2 Olympic titles. Now, let's talk competition highlights. I know Kayla is the 2010 Tokyo World Champion, however, she's not the first American to win a world title. There's also Jimmy Pedro, her trainer, I believe. He is also a world champion. But I do want to talk about the Olympics because she is the first American to win a gold medal in judo, and it was in 2012 London against an English woman, Gemma Gibbons. So there's a very iconic moment for her because, well, the pressure of her nation is on her shoulders, being possibly the first American to win a gold medal in judo, and she was in London against an English woman in the finals, so the pressure was built up tremendously. But regardless, she showed tremendous judo, very dominant, very powerful, and yet very graceful. Kayla is a very good example of a dominant champion, physically strong and technically very accurate. And this is what makes her a legend in judo that she is. She is very, very graceful in her attitude. She is very determined, very ambitious, and she managed to make herself a legend in judo in London 2012. So this is why the 2012 Olympics is a very iconic moment in her competition career. The next highlight I want to discuss is, of course, the Rio 2016 Olympics, 4 years after the London Olympics, and nothing has changed. She's still the dominant champion that she is, very strong, very ruthless, and very dominant. She had managed to take her 2nd gold Olympic title and winning in newaza and showing tremendous ground technique. And here in the finals, she won via armbar and in a very flexible position. Again, Kayla is one of the best, and this is why she's my favorite. She's very good both tachiwaza or standing grappling and newaza ground grappling, and she is the true reflection of a judo champion. Physically strong, graceful, modest, humble, and very dedicated and very, very committed to training and becoming one of the best. And here we can see her singing the anthem with pride, and this is because she deserves it. And again, one of my favorites for a reason. The third highlight that I want to talk about is Kayla's transition to MMA or mixed martial arts. She is now currently undefeated with 5 wins under her belt. And however, I know this is a judo channel and a judo episode, judoka profile, but I want to talk about this because I want to show how important judo is as a foundation to mixed martial arts. Because, I mean, Royce Gracie won everything using judo, using the chokes, the arm bars, etc. off his back and mounting. And I want to show this because Kayla is also a very dominant champion, and she has now an undefeated streak of 5-0. And she even said that she is the female version of Khabib, but better. Now I know some of you will say, but Khabib is 28-0 and Kayla is only 5-0, she's getting too cocky. Yeah, but does Khabib have 2 Olympic gold medals? I don't think so. And she's saying this because she wants to insert herself as a strong figure, not only because she's cocky or she's not humble. No, As a judoka, you have to be humble. However, you have to be sure of yourself, and you have to be very persistent and very offensive in fighting and in your attitude. So no, I believe that she is truly a Khabib version of the female division in PFL. But yes, her career just started. But again, does Khabib have 2 gold medals in the Olympics? No. I'll get back to MMA in just a moment, but I do want to discuss first the kumikata. Kayla's kumikata grip fighting and tactics are rather interesting. It's very unique. Usually people would have some sort of a sleeve and lapel grip, especially the Japanese, or a sleeve and like a high Russian arm grip on the back to usually dominate the posture. But Kayla's case is a bit different. She's right-handed. She mainly uses the right hand as a Russian arm and the second as a lapel grip. We saw her doing the ogoshi with it. It's a very dominant grip. She can easily break posture with it, and uses it to insert her hips and boom, throw with it. She also has pinning sleeve tactics. Before someone would reach out their hand, she would pin the sleeve, and then she proceeds to close the space and to throw and insert her grip first. All these you can find them at Fighting Films, Superstar Judo. I'm sorry, I do not have access to these footages. I do have just access on YouTube videos that are not copyrighted, or if they are, I will just state them as fair use. If you want to know more, you can easily find her on Fighting Films and Superstar Judo. But this is mainly it. She's right-handed. She uses a very unique grip, a Russian arm, very high Russian arm, and a lapel grip on the other hand, and mainly throws with ogoshi with it. Now, let's talk top 3 finishers, and the first one we start with ogoshi. According to Kayla, ogoshi is her quote-unquote bread and butter, her foundation. She has drilled it more than any other technique. She has won countless ippons with it, and again, it's her grip that helps also the dominant grip. And she said it's a good throw for women because they have, wider hips, lower center of gravity, so that's why it's one of her best go-to movements and her quote-unquote bread and butter. The next technique is seoinage. Now, Kayla has a big arsenal of techniques, but the main 2 big throws are ogoshi and seoinage. We're not going to talk a lot about her ashiwaza because I have something else to discuss with you later, but her main big throws are seoinage here, the drop seoinage, and the ogoshi standing up using her hips and her dominant grip. The third is actually not a specific technique, but I'm gonna talk about her newaza, her groundwork. Kayla's groundwork is absolutely ruthless. She has no mercy on the ground. She is very dominant, very strong, switches from position to position very easily and very quickly, and this is what I was talking about from the beginning. When people say, the Gracies perfected the ground aspect of judo, that's so not true. Newaza, sparring and rolling always existed, and it's part of the judo curriculum since day 1. So when people say like judo is only a transition, for example, if you score a wazari, you can continue it with a armbar or a kimura or degarami, that's so not true. Please, by all means, ignore them. They don't even know their own history. So this is what I mean by judo being complete both standing and on the ground. And look how it is transitioning to MMA. Kayla is absolutely mauling people, transitioning from position to position, similar to Kimura versus Gracie. And this is what is judo all about, being dominant on the ground. And yes, it might differ a bit from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a mindset standpoint, because BJJ players, they tend to pull guard, they tend to be comfortable more on their backs. Judo is a bit similar to wrestling because in wrestling and judo, you have something that's called the osaikomi, or the pin. So being on your back, yes, it does exist. You can attack, you can attack from half guard, you can attack from closed guard. That's true, but you might risk getting pinned. And in judo, nobody wants that. So they would prefer the top position always. And if you can see here, this is what Kayla is doing. She is absolutely ruthless and dominant, and yet always on top. Very different from, for example, Ferguson or Chrome Gracie. See, it's from top position and switching from back mount to side control, etc., etc. And this is what judo on the ground looks like. It's not just a transition from a throw to an armbar or whatever. There's positions, there's escapes, there are pins, there is everything. There are guards. Everything there is in BJJ, there was in judo. Now, you talk about, people adding stuff. For example, Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo is a great revolutionary, sure, but when it comes to the basics and honing them, it's always been judo. And Kayla is a great example of what judo can do in MMA, and it is one of the foundations of this game. And Royce Gracie did the same, but mainly from his back or the side control. For example, against Kimo, he was on his back and he tapped many people off his back. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist in judo, but like I said, a judoka is like a wrestler. They prefer the top position, not being on their back, although they can, but their mindset says like, avoid the pin. You don't want to get pinned because you lose simply everything, and nobody wants to lose to a pin. Like a wrestler, ask a wrestler, do they like to get pinned? No. And here we see her finishing it off after intense mauling. Here finishing with an armbar, a juji gatame, and it is over. But we are not done yet. Here we see Kayla Harrison against Ronda Rousey herself. Kayla here was a kid. She was, I believe, 15 years old, and Ronda was about 18. And look what is happening to her. Again, another great example of what judo is about on the ground. See, and this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to just pull guard and go to a BJJ academy to be good on the ground. Judo simply is enough. But if you want to go to MMA, then yes, you might go to a jiu-jitsu school simply to learn to roll without the gi. That's it. And I think Kayla is now part of Henzo Gracie Academy because, you roll without the gi. I mean, if me, myself, want to transition to MMA, I would go to a jiu-jitsu school simply to roll without the gi. That's it. Other than that, all the basics, all the transitions, all the techniques, I simply learned them from judo. Look at her. She's absolutely destroying her. And here she got pinned. She couldn't get out. This is what I was talking about when you get pinned in judo. Nobody wants that. So what do you think? Can Kayla go to the UFC? I mean, we need a new judo role model in the UFC and show what judo is about. After what happened to Ronda, it was honestly very sad, talking to her about being the best striker, and she only relied on striking, and this is how she let go of one of the best parts of her game, and that's judo. Kayla is a double Olympic champion, and we need a good example of judo, morals and techniques in the UFC. UFC is lacking a lot of courtesy, and I think Kayla going there and showing what judo is about from both attitude and technique would be a wonderful addition to the UFC, and it will make it far more fun, and the women's division will explode and evolve very quickly. So let me know below what do you think, and what's your next suggestion for a judoka profile. Let me know. This was Shadi, and I am signing out.